Conspiracy in Rome. Chapter 1. The Eternal City. Rome, the city of ancient ruins and timeless beauty. It was supposed to be a vacation, a break from the relentless grind of crime scenes and interrogations. I had flown from New York to escape the constant hum of the city, seeking solace in the winding streets and historic sites of Italy's capital. Little did I know that Rome would offer no respite, only another case, a tangled web of secrets and deceit. The heat of the late summer sun beat down on me as I strolled through the cobblestone streets of Trastevere. I had rented a modest apartment in this quaint district, far from the usual tourist traps, hoping to immerse myself in the local culture. But as I walked, the sights and sounds of the city seemed distant, as if something was lurking just out of view, waiting to reveal itself. My days were spent wandering through the ancient ruins, sipping espresso at street-side cafes, and absorbing the history that seemed to seep from every brick and stone. But my nights were restless, filled with unsettling dreams that left me drenched in sweat. It was as if the city itself was trying to tell me something, whispering in a language I couldn't understand. One evening, as I sipped a glass of red wine on the balcony of my apartment, a shadow caught my eye. It was a man, standing across the street half hidden in a doorway of a church. He was watching me, I was sure of it. When our eyes met, he turned and disappeared into the darkened alleyway. I set my glass down, my heart pounding with a familiar rush of adrenaline. I was a detective after all, and I knew trouble when I saw it. Chapter 2. The Missing Woman. The next morning, I was awoken by the sound of my doorbell. Groggily, I answered to find an elderly woman standing there, her eyes wide with panic. She was dressed in black, the traditional mourning outfit, and clutched a small worn handbag. "Signore, per favore, aiutami," she pleaded, her voice trembling. My Italian was rudimentary at best, but I understood enough to realize she was asking for help. She thrust a photograph into my hands, a picture of a young woman no older than 25 with dark hair and piercing green eyes. "È scomparsa," the old woman continued, her voice breaking. That woman was missing, and something in the old lady's desperation pulled at me, refusing to let me ignore her. I took the photograph and nodded. "Come inside," I said, opening the door wider. She stepped in, her hands shaking as she handed me the photograph. I learned that the missing woman was her granddaughter, Elena Rossi, a local art student who had vanished a week ago. The police had dismissed it as a case of a runaway, but the grandmother was convinced otherwise. There was something in her eyes, a deep-seated fear that told me this wasn't just the overactive imagination of a worried relative. As I promised to look into it, a part of me wondered why I was getting involved. This wasn't my city, my jurisdiction, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was meant to find Elena, that my presence in Rome wasn't a coincidence. Chapter 3. The Art of Deception. I started my investigation the only way I knew how, by asking questions. I visited Elena's art school, a small academy nestled between two grandiose palazzos. The students and faculty were hesitant to speak, their words guarded, but I managed to glean a few details. Elena was a talented painter, obsessed with capturing the essence of Rome in her work. But in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, she had become increasingly withdrawn, her work taking on a darker tone. A friend of Elena's, a fellow student named Marco, finally gave me a lead. He mentioned a man, someone Elena had been seen with frequently before she vanished. He was an art dealer, Marco said, a man with a dubious reputation named Vittorio Bellini. He was known for his connections to the underground art market, dealing in stolen or forged works. The name sent a chill down my spine. It wasn't unfamiliar. I had encountered Bellini's name before in connection with a case back in New York, a forgery ring that had ties to organized crime. I had thought it just a coincidence, but now I wasn't so sure. Rome was starting to reveal its secrets, and they were darker than I had anticipated. Chapter 4. Shadows in the Forum. I found Bellini's gallery tucked away in a narrow alley near the Roman Forum. The place reeked of old money and deceit. The paintings on display were exquisite, but there was something off about them, a certain lifelessness that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Bellini himself was a tall, thin man with slicked back hair and a permanent sneer etched on his face. He greeted me with the kind of false warmth that made my skin crawl. "Ah, an American," he said, his English laced with a thick Italian accent. "What brings you to my humble gallery?" I played the part of a tourist, feigning interest in the art as I subtly probed him about Elena. Bellini was evasive, but I could tell from the way his eyes darted around that he was hiding something. When I mentioned Elena's name, his demeanor changed ever so slightly. He shrugged it off, claiming he barely knew her, just another art student who had come to him looking for a patron. But his lie was transparent, and I could feel the tension in the air. As I left the gallery, I knew I was being followed. The streets of Rome were winding and narrow, perfect for losing a tail. But I didn't try to shake him off. I wanted to see where this would lead. I turned into a side street, and as expected, the man following me, a burly figure in a dark coat, tried to corner me. But I was faster. With a quick movement, I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the wall. "Who sent you?" I demanded, my voice low and dangerous. He smirked, saying nothing. But his silence told me enough. Bellini was scared, and people like Bellini only got scared when they had something to lose. Chapter 5. The Truth Beneath the Surface. As the days passed, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, but the picture they formed was more sinister than I had anticipated. Elena had stumbled upon something in her art, something that Bellini and his associates wanted to keep buried. It wasn't just about forgeries, it was about a conspiracy that reached deep into the underbelly of Rome's elite. Elena had been working on a series of paintings inspired by the ancient ruins of Rome, but her final piece, a large unfinished canvas, was different. It depicted a scene that was eerily familiar, a hidden chamber beneath the city, filled with treasures that shouldn't exist. It was as if Elena had uncovered a secret that had been buried for centuries. I found the painting in her apartment, hidden behind a stack of canvases. The brushstrokes were frantic, the colors dark and foreboding. And there, in the corner of the painting, was a figure, half hidden in the shadows, watching. I knew then Elena hadn't run away. She had been taken, silenced because she had seen too much. But who was behind it? Bellini? Or was it someone else, someone more powerful pulling the strings? Chapter 6. The Final Confrontation. My search led me to the catacombs beneath Rome, a labyrinth of tunnels and crypts that stretched for miles. It was there I realized that the final act would play out. The ancient walls seemed to close in around me as I descended deeper into the darkness, my footsteps echoing off the stone. I found Elena in a small chamber, bound and gagged, but alive. Her eyes were wide with fear, but they lit up with hope when she saw me. I quickly freed her, but before we could escape, we were confronted by Bellini and his men. "You should have stayed out of this, detective," Bellini sneered, his gun aimed at my chest. But I wasn't afraid. I had faced that before, and I wasn't about to back down now. I had come too far to let the truth remain buried. "What is this all about, Bellini?" I demanded. "Why go to such lengths to silence one woman?" Bellini hesitated, and in that moment the truth came tumbling out. It wasn't just about money or power. It was about a secret that had been passed down through generations, a secret that could destroy the very foundation of Rome's elite. Elena's painting had revealed the location of a lost treasure, hidden for centuries beneath the city. It was a treasure that Bellini's ancestors had sworn to protect, and they would stop at nothing to keep it from being discovered. But it was too late. The truth was out, and there was no going back. Chapter 7. Roman Shadows. In the end, justice was served, but it came at a cost. Bellini was arrested, his empire crumbling around him, but the secret of the lost treasure remained just that, a secret. The authorities sealed off the chamber, declaring it a protected historical site, and Elena was left to pick up the pieces of her life. As for me, I returned to my apartment, my vacation in Rome forever tainted by the shadows that had lurked beneath its surface. I had come to the city seeking peace, but instead I had found a mystery that had nearly cost me my life. As I packed my bags and prepared to leave, I couldn't shake the feeling that Rome wasn't done with me just yet. The city had revealed one of its secrets, but I knew there were countless more hidden in its ancient walls. And, as my plane took off, leaving the eternal city behind, I couldn't help but wonder if I would ever come back here again. If you've enjoyed this story and would like to hear some more, do let us know in the comments below. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us a lot. Thanks.